to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York team has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
After a very promising start to this season, could it be already done for KC's wide receiver, Rashee Rice, attempting to make a tackle after Patrick Mahomes threw an interception?
We're used to teams saying, we don't know, MRI. Here, Andy Reid's being a little more honest. He's leaving hope alive, but I think they already know, which is really, really too bad.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome in. It is Game Time Decisions live with you here on SportsGrid on a Tuesday night. I'm Kevin Walsh. We have 2 hours here for a big night of basketball. We do have some hockey out in the mix if you'd like as well. We have crowned a national champion in a college game with Ohio State's victory last night against Notre Dame. We have plenty more big-time football to come, the conference championship games on Sunday, and before you know it, we will be out there in New Orleans getting set for the Super Bowl. On our show tonight, we will get you another edition of Take 5, and this time we're going to play some bets. We kind of took the head coach openings in our last edition and saw where there could be some value if things go right with hires. The Bears, with their Ben Johnson hire, moved markets, certainly. That's kind of the relation there. Today's Take 5, we are going to get 3 of the 5 are bets that I'm placing. All I think would make sense, and it's college across the board. We'll talk Heisman Trophy, the women's game, and some futures that I placed on the men's side of the equation. We will have Coach James Young stop by with us tonight to get some picks on the basketball board. We'll have Brady Cannon, as we always do on these Tuesdays. Of course, the golf that's coming up this week, but what he makes of the conference championship lines, a lot of conversation about KC being a slight favorite and an increasing number on the Philadelphia Eagles against the Washington Commanders. You know, Dave Sharapan will be with us here in just a little while as well around some of the early markets and the way the movement is trending now out there in Vegas. I'd like to start tonight's show, though, by talking about things going on in the association. You know, we are not all too far away from the NBA's trade deadline, and when we get there, we have some teams that might make some big swings. We have some teams that might try and just do some small things. Apparently the Lakers are set to do some small things. Is that because they don't think the current roster would benefit enough from major improvements? Is that because they think that they only need a couple of small tweaks to contend at a high level? Probably the former than the latter. They're in action tonight as big favorites against the Washington Wizards. They should not need much of anything to get through probably what is the worst team in the NBA at 6-35. It's pretty inarguable if that's what the Washington Wizards are. The big game on the board tonight is Denver and Philadelphia. We are doing rivalry week this week, which I appreciate from the NBA. I think, with the NFL kind of winding down, they're looking to try and take advantage, and it is not their fault that Denver versus Philadelphia is a 12.5-point spread. Though Embiid not playing in Denver is par for the course. Embiid not playing at all is what we've come to expect from this season. And the Philadelphia 76ers find themselves as the panic team of the Eastern Conference. The only reason that all hope is not lost is how bad the back end of the East is. Philly right now is 15-26, and yet they are just 2.5 back of a play-in spot. They are 6 full games back, though, of Detroit and the 9th spot. So for Philly, there is some absolute concern about how this is going to look, about whether or not this is going to be turned around for the Philadelphia 76ers. You look at that preseason market, that pricing, and no number to me stands out more than a minus 1,500 number to make the playoffs. The idea around Philly, while there were some injury concerns around Embiid entering the season, is they had now added so much depth, they'd be able to survive it. Well, then Maxey was injured, then Paul George was injured, then Paul George is bad, then everybody else is still around them injured. It's just, and Embiid has not been able to get anything near health. We have played 41 games of 82 for Philadelphia. Embiid has been there for 13 games. I mean, it is worse than even the biggest or pessimist probably would have thought heading into the season. This right now for the Philadelphia 76ers looks dire. And yeah, okay, maybe they get into the playoffs or the play-in, which is, what their probable best-case scenario is. But are they going to be able to climb out of that play-in? And if they do, their reward would be playing the Cavs or the Celtics. That's not much of a reward at all. The 76ers are having a nightmare scenario on their hands right now. It looks like it's only going to get worse against Denver because they line up against Nikola Jokic, who is in the biggest bounce-back spot of his entire season. Nikola Jokic over 49.5 points, rebounds, and assists is my best bet on the entire slate tonight, NBA or college. This is a phenomenal number to take advantage of because Jokic likes to take advantage of the Philadelphia 76ers, and Nikola Jokic back at home, I think you will see start to stuff the stat sheet in typical Nikola Jokic fashion. Jokic on the most recent 4-game road trip for Denver, 42.5 points, rebounds, and assists was his average, and at no point cleared 50 PRA. Prior to that road trip, 7 consecutive games of at least 50 points, rebounds, and assists. Prior to this 4-game road trip, he had never had more than a 2-game streak without 50 PRA. And that had only happened 2 or 3 times during this regular season. Jokic tonight bounces back and continues to put the 76ers up against it, who are 11 games under 500 right now. Though Philly's panic in the East, right, is a lot to do with their own issues, and it's incredible that it is the reality within that Eastern Conference. There are some teams in a bad way in the West, and being in that conference only elevates how bad things are. Yesterday, both the Suns and the Warriors went up against the top teams in the East. Phoenix and Cleveland lost by 36 points, which wasn't anywhere near as bad as Golden State at home against Boston, losing by 40 to those Celtics. You now have a pair of teams in Phoenix and Golden State who are both 21-21. Right now, Phoenix has the 10th spot, and the 11th belongs to Golden State. You look up and who is supposed to fall out to make way for these two teams who are now plus money to make the playoffs. As far as teams currently in the playoff picture that were not expected to be there, the Rockets, the Clippers, I guess the Kings. The Rockets are 7 games up on those two teams. The Clippers right now, okay, maybe. But these are two teams that are in a bad way. And yet we're hearing from Golden State's best players, please don't make any big moves. Okay, do they then want to be traded themselves? And Phoenix is trying their hardest to get Jimmy Butler, but Bradley Beal seems to be standing in the way of that. We'll see how much movement these teams are willing to make and what that relates to the market. But you have some legitimate panic going on right now in the Bay and the Valley. We'll go over to the college basketball board next. We're live with you on a Tuesday night. It's Game Time Decisions on SportsGrid.
So my team didn't win this weekend, but I still did with this app that's taking over the game. Sports Millions Pick'em lets you make quick and easy predictions. Pick your favorite players, go higher or lower, and you can still win big even if your team loses. Plus, the multiplier is insane. With just a few picks, you can win big money. So get on it. They've got a welcome bonus to help you start off your winning streak.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the game starts so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What?
How do you do this once?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Game Time Decisions live right here on a Tuesday night. A big decision looms for the New York Jets around who their head coach will be. More and more reports coming out around this football team that every expectation is they will be hiring the Detroit Lions defensive coordinator, Aaron Glenn. Zach Rosenblatt of The Athletic tweeting out some updates that, again, barring something completely unexpected, Aaron Glenn will be getting this job for the New York Jets. I just want to quickly say, I think the Jets were one of those teams that I thought a defensive coordinator made sense. When we did our Take 5 last week, I liked the Brian Flores move. I like that Flores has been a head coach before. I don't mind skewing a little bit younger. I also like a little bit of, I thought Flores had the access to potentially grab the Vikings guys, and whether that's Phillips, because I know it will be an OC move to an OC move for Wes, but maybe he goes, well, I'm now the full play caller. I'm not under O'Connell, or McCown. I thought would have been an awesome OC. Quite frankly, I think they could have given him a head coach interview, New York, quite frankly. We'll see who Glenn brings in as his coordinators. But I don't mind the Jets going with a defensive-first hire. If the defensive coordinator is good, this should be a top 5 defense next year for the New York Jets. We'll see what the quarterback situation is going to be. That is one of the big questions that sit out there for the Jets. Probably the most difficult to predict quarterback room is the New York Jets. They draft 7th, 3 teams at least in front of them. People expect to be in the quarterback market with the Titans, the Giants, and the Raiders. You could certainly throw the Browns in that mix. This is not a draft that is expected to put 4 or 5 quarterbacks in round 1. Some don't think it'll put 3 quarterbacks in round 1. So if the Jets are going to the free agent market, I don't see anywhere they bring Darnold back. I don't see anywhere they bring Rodgers back. Pay Brock Purdy, if that's even on the board. We don't know if it's on the board. Kirk Cousins, that feels like the Aaron Rodgers thing, right? So maybe I'm missing something obvious for the New York Jets for that quarterback room. I don't think there is anything obvious right now, and that, of course, is always going to determine so much. I will say this then is likely going to have the Saints now pivoting to their next move, which is the move that I've thought kind of was their move for a while. I think they're going to bring in Mike McCarthy in New Orleans, and that's probably what that's going to be. Let's go through the college basketball board. All right, we got a lot of ranked action tonight. The Big Ten and the SEC really crowding the card. Alabama going to host Vanderbilt. The Vols are hosting Mississippi State. The action, though, for me tonight is going to be 3 team totals, all towards the over, which is going to be more often than not how I look towards just kind of the numbers there. But we'll get more in that groove and with some of this action here. But it was just a team total tonight more than anything. There were a few sides that stood out. I considered grabbing double digits with Ohio State and the 8.5 with Miss State. But team total-wise, I wanted to get in the mix. And it begins with Iowa State over 85.5 points. Iowa State tonight goes up against UCF, and you can see that this is a huge total, 155.5. The number almost looks too big. But that's if you let the UCF game against Houston kind of throw you off base, right? Because 69-68, 137 points, crept under the total in that game against Houston. What the Knights were playing prior to that, 95-89 Arizona State, 88-80 against Arizona. They gave up 74 to Colorado, 99 to Kansas. That is a lot of high-scoring basketball. UCF is one of the quickest teams in the Big 12. Iowa State, one of the best offenses in college basketball this season, off of a loss at West Virginia, a very slow basketball team, a very good defense there. I think you see the Cyclones offense bounce back in a huge way tonight at home. I think they flirt with the century mark against UCF. Speaking of West Virginia, now the Mountaineers just had probably their best win of the season, beating Iowa State, 64-57 at home, which is great. But I think we've seen the number move a little too far as it relates to a team total on the Sun Devils. Their number tonight is 61.5 at -118 towards that over. Arizona State just played Cincinnati, a 67-60 loss, narrowly going under a team total in that game of 63.5. In my opinion, I think Cincinnati should breed a lower team total than that of West Virginia. Cincinnati is a little bit quicker, 284th in tempo compared to West Virginia's 325th ranking. However, Cincinnati ranks 7th in defensive efficiency compared to West Virginia's 19th. Still great, but I don't think that we're looking at West Virginia I don't think it's right that they've knocked 2 points off that Arizona State number. I think that Arizona State going up against Cincinnati now, here in the game against West Virginia, will be used to the slow, grinded-out defensive effort, and I think that you're going to see the Sun Devils get through that 61.5, where West Virginia might not have the intensity from the word go that they had by bringing in the Cyclones to their building. The last team total for me is going to come in the ACC tonight. It's going to be a little unranked action between Wake Forest and North Carolina. A really important game for UNC. They were off to a great start in ACC play. It looked like they were actually going to be able to turn the corner here within this conference. Yes, they lost at Louisville, but they were starting to pile together the necessary results, and then they lose by 1 at home against Stanford. A nightmare result, undoubtedly, but one I think they absolutely get off the mat for. Tonight they play Wake Forest, and the Demon Deacons, while they are good defensively, have yet to see a team play at the pace that North Carolina plays at, and I think you see UNC fill it up tonight and go over their team total of 73.5. So it's going to be Iowa State over the 85.5 at minus 106, Arizona State over the 61.5 at minus 118, and then over 73.5 at minus 115 for North Carolina. Just quickly, if people are interested, we did just get the results of the Baseball Hall of Fame. A congratulations to Ichiro, CC Sabathia, and Billy Wagner. Some baseball in January. That's enough. Sports Millions Pick'em is next.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
After a very promising start to this season, could it be already done for KC's wide receiver, Rashee Rice, attempting to make a tackle after Patrick Mahomes threw an interception?
We're used to teams saying, we don't know, MRI. Here, Andy Reid's being a little more honest. He's leaving hope alive, but I think they already know, which is really, really too bad.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Back right here on SportsGrid Game Time Decisions. Kevin Walsh with you on this Tuesday night. We have Coach James Young right around the corner. Excited to get some picks from him tonight on the basketball boards. But let's take a look at some of your options here for the Sports Millions Pick'em. Got Tom and Joe giving out some action.
Happy Tuesday, everyone. Joe and Tom here. We're going to jump into our Sports Millions pick'ems. Now, there's a loaded day out there on the ice, Tom, and I'm going to turn to the ice, and you are as well. I'll let you kick us off with what you're looking at.
Yeah, we'll talk some NHL today. We'll get into some NFL as the week goes on. Obviously, 2 championship games this weekend. But let's start off. Dylan Larkin, the top line center for the Detroit Red Wings, higher than 2.5 shots on goal. Overall, the Red Wings are playing much better since they changed their coach. They are on a 2-game losing streak right now, so I do like them to bounce back. They have been playing much better. Return to Larkin. Again, top line center on that first power play, higher than 2.5 shots on goal. He has at least 2 shots on goal in 9 of the 10 games. He has at least 3 shots on goal in 8 out of his last 10 games. He's going up against the Flyers tonight. I think the Flyers are playing a little bit above their head. I just don't expect them to be this good. They're on a 2-game win streak. The Red Wings are on a 2-game losing streak. I fully expect the Red Wings to bounce back. And, of course, that's going to be led by Larkin, who leads the team in shots. Their top-line center, he gets it done tonight.
I love where you're going with Dylan Larkin. He's been phenomenal for the Red Wings, and I would count on him if you're looking for the Red Wings to get the win, for him to come out flying. Now, when I look at the matchups on the ice tonight, I've got to look at a storyline here. The Edmonton Oilers are back at home playing the Washington Capitals, but guess what? They're without their star, Connor McDavid. Without Connor McDavid on the ice because of his 3-game suspension, Leon Draisaitl is going to step up. We see Leon Draisaitl constantly step up without Connor McDavid on the ice, averaging 1.5 points without him on the ice versus 1.33 with him. I'm looking at his shots on goal. I'll take Leon Draisaitl higher than 2.5 shots on goal in this matchup tonight. We look at him in that last game versus Vancouver. He was held to 2, but in those games prior, we did see 3 versus the Avs, 4 versus the Red Wings, and 5 versus the LA Kings. If he can put up 5 on a defense like the LA Kings, I'm expecting him to be able to, with that attitude that he needs to step up here without Connor McDavid on the ice, be able to go higher than 2.5 shots on goal, Tom.
I absolutely love that. Obviously, McDavid suspended, the cross-check, it is what it is. Leon Draisaitl in the Hart conversation this year, I think he gets done as well.
He should. You guys make sure you join us back here for Sports Millions Pick'ems tomorrow.
All right, appreciate the breakdowns there from both Tom and Joe. Before we look at some other options on Sports Millions Pick'em, here's Joe with some more that they're offering.
Enjoy Sport Millions Pick'ems, but hey, making picks yourself? Well, Sports Millions has you covered. Head on over to Sports Millions Blitz'em right now and let the computer do the work. Go to sportsmillions.com/Blitz'em to be able to win big prizes without having to make a single pick yourself. That's sportsmillions.com/Blitz'em.
Taking a look at myself over here for some Sports Millions Pick'em. You can find Nikola Jokic there, who I think does have a really big game going up against Philadelphia. His points number is 26.5, 9.5 on the assist, 12.5 on the rebounds. If I had to isolate one of those options, it would be points, where he has been lacking a little bit recently. But back home, I think you could see Jokic really light up that Philly defense. Speaking of Philly, the NFL numbers are already out and available. 132.5 is the number, higher or lower, for Saquon Barkley going up against the Washington Commanders. Saquon Barkley is having an unbelievable start to the postseason. If he did not pass up on an additional 59 yards and another touchdown against Green Bay, he would be on pace comfortably to have the greatest postseason of all time at the running back position, at minimum yardage-wise, I'll say. I don't want to step on, TD's toes or anything like that. But another big reason for that number looking the way it does, against Washington, first go-around, 26 for 146 and 2 scores. The second go-around, 29 for 150 and 2 scores. Saquon Barkley has feasted this year against Washington, and Sports Million Pick'em has that number up nice and high if you do want to go higher. Up next right here on SportsGrid, we'll talk to Coach James Young. We're live with you on a Tuesday. anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
After a very promising start to this season, could it be already done for KC's wide receiver, Rashee Rice, attempting to make a tackle after Patrick Mahomes threw an interception?
We're used to teams saying, we don't know, MRI, MRI, MRI. Here, Andy Reid's being a little more honest. He's leaving hope alive, but I think they already know, which is really, really too bad.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
I tell you what, man, talking Wizards basketball is all right with me. This guy, Brian Keefe, in year number one. You want to talk about a turnaround? He's got this team scoring like 4 or 5 less points per game. Exactly what the doctor ordered, man. That Wizards team is not good. But they'll definitely push the Lakers tonight because that's how every Laker game goes, where they lay a big spread. Let's stick with the basketball conversation. Let's bring in Coach James Young here on a Tuesday night. JY, how we feeling? Plenty of options on this board.
Plenty of options on the board, and we don't need to be talking about the Wizards.
Whoa.
We got the battle of the East River with the Knicks and the Nets. Right. Philadelphia getting about 245,000 points tonight. And an intriguing game with Orlando at Toronto. Orlando's not played well, but look at who they've played coming into the game tonight.
Fair enough. So then, JY, let's try and find some value on this board. Are you getting involved with the game between Brooklyn and New York? Knicks are laying a big one here, which I'm sure isn't surprising.
No, it's not surprising. And no, I'm not going to touch it either. When you look at anything with the Knicks, I'm looking for their team total to go over. I think it was at 115.5, 116.5 earlier in the day. Over one of the 2 games so far. Second leg of a back-to-back, but Tibbs actually did something that's very un-Tibbs-like. He actually played his bench a little bit of minutes last night. So those guys should be refreshed. Cat on his second leg, maybe he's a little bit better. I like the Knicks to go over their team total of 115, 116.5 tonight.
All right, some love there for the Knicks offense in that game. The number looks a little big with Brooklyn coming back after a 6-game road trip, but is any number big against these Brooklyn Nets feels like a valid question. The Knicks have been very good against the number off of a loss this year, and they were beaten pretty handily in their last game against Minnesota. Portland and Miami. And a dropping number tonight, and that's because Tyler Hero is out for this one here, Coach. What do you think that means for some of these numbers?
Yeah, I mean, listen, to me, if you look at the fact of what Miami has been, which has really been a team that's up and down, obviously coming off of that win at versus San Antonio, but then losing 3 games before that, I went first quarter. If I'm Miami, I want to jump out to a big lead. It was 3.5. Kevin, with the news of Tyler Hero, it's down to 2.5. Maybe you take them on the money line. Just have them up by 3 points. I'm going to take Miami Heat first quarter to jump them early and have the lead.
All right. I'm very interested to see how Jimmy plays in this game. We know Jimmy is still looking to be traded, but this is going to be the most opportunity that he will have been given since he's returned to the lineup. Hero has been the driving force of this Miami offense. Bam Adebayo's had a massive down year to start things offensively for Miami. Jimmy, in the 3 games since he's returned to the lineup, or 4 games, in 3 of them he has scored less than 10, and he has taken 7 or fewer shots. So do we see Jimmy Butler tonight take a chance to have a big role, or will the Miami offense be in disarray? At the moment, we don't have props out right now.
Kevin, really quick, and I want to ask you this. I know this is your show. I was thinking about this because I talked about this on the podcast yesterday. Crazy that Miami Heat may not make the playoffs. Like, this may become so much of a distraction that they could be like a 9 or 10 and get knocked out. I think it's like plus 200, plus 220 for them not to make the playoffs.
So where I'm at right now is I would be stunned if Jimmy is not traded. And I think that will alleviate some pressure. And I think it is possible that they bring back a positive return. It doesn't mean there'll be somebody better than Jimmy at his best. They aren't getting that right now. They haven't had that all season long, right? So I think that Miami, if you look right now, JY, are they going to be in the play-in? The odds are yes, because you'd expect Orlando to get a little bit better as they get a little bit healthier, right? And right now Miami is already, sitting within that. But also, JY, I think you would agree, there's no chance Miami's not in the play-in, right? So it's going to be tricky because I think still in those one-game situations, there's still some love for Spoelstra to get the job done, no?
Yeah, and I think the reason why I think about it is you're right. I think, those top, let's say 5, 6 seeds are probably set. Maybe does Atlanta drop back to the pack? Maybe, but as maddening of losses they've had, they've also had some really impressive wins, the Hawks. But to me, you start looking at the teams behind them, right? Detroit, I guess we have to give J.B. Bickerstaff his flowers. He's good in the regular season. He's just not good in the playoffs. So what he's done there, what happens with Chicago? Do they blow it up, right? And then there's always a team that we got to keep thinking about, and that's Philadelphia. If Philadelphia just gets in, they become dangerous. If they're 9-10 and it's Miami, Philadelphia, I don't care where the game is. I'm taking the 76ers because of the firepower they have in a one-game situation. That's why I think it's tricky. If Miami's not going to be 7 or 8, if they're 9 or 10, I don't think they get in.
Yeah, that's interesting. What I would say right now is, one, and now that it'd be crazy to expect Embiid to play in any game at this point. 2, one of the underrated storylines of this season, and I know why, it's because they're bad and we chalk it all up to injury, is Paul George has been atrocious this year when available. His numbers have dropped everywhere. He is averaging 5 less points per game. His field goal percentage is down almost 5 points. His 3-point percentage is almost down 6 points. The guy that Philly brought in has not shown up in any capacity. Like, one of the reasons, if I told you, and I know that Maxi's missed time and so is PG, but the Maxi PG Sixers are still not that good. And that team was expected to be much better than they actually are. Do you have any thoughts on their game tonight against Denver, catching a lot of points?
Yeah, listen, I was going more of the prop side of it, and shout out to Sport Millions with the NBA Pick'em. A couple of things I like tonight is I liked Aaron Gordon to go higher than 9.5 points. Looking at 9 the last 15, 18 last time versus the 76ers. And on the other side, Tyrese Maxey higher than 6.5 assists. He got 9 last time, And if I'm not mistaken, Denver gives up the most assists in the NBA. That game will get up and down. You maybe load up on Maxey. So now the pass is available. So maybe Paul George, who has gone over 20 and a half in 3 straight games, maybe this is a soft landing spot for PG on the road. Big number, not expected to win. Go out and play. Maybe this is the game that Paul George will get off and get you about 23, 24 points.
All right, Jay, we're going to talk some college in the next segment here. So anything else from the NBA board that we didn't hit for tonight from you?
Yeah, I do like the Magic on the money line. I didn't get into it, but they lost 5 of the last 6. But Kevin, Denver, Boston, Milwaukee twice. So they've lost against tough teams. I'm going to take them on the money line on the road. I talked about in the first quarter. Last prop, Mikal Bridges over 2.5 rebounds. Low-hanging fruit. 4 of the last 5. Played well last night. 5+ rebounds in both matches versus the Nets. He will show up and show out because it's Brooklyn. Mikal Bridges over 2.5. Some places 3.5 rebounds tonight.
All right, Mikal Bridges there. A little bit of love in a revenge spot. Honestly, he should be very happy. They sent him exactly where he would want to be, quite frankly. We're going to hit a break. When we come back, we have some college games tonight. We're going to get JY's picks. We also got to talk a little bit about the top level here. National championship, that Take 5, it's around the corner on the men's and the women's side. Where could there be some value potentially if you're ready to step up to the plate here and put in some January action? We'll talk about that next. It's Game Time Decisions right here on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the game starts so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Blocked well and tries to cut through the middle. Oh!
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Second full year under new ownership to really be where they are right now for this Commanders franchise is one of the best stories of this NFL season.
Went to the playoffs and won 2 road games. Now we're going to use that. Hey, rookie quarterback on? No more rookie quarterback. He's already arrived in the NFL as a legitimate quarterback. And can you say, Ben, is he already top 5?
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
All right, back with you right here on Game Time Decisions. Let's talk about tonight's action, and then we'll talk a little bit about the futures market. JY, for you, Alabama tonight against Vanderbilt, who are coming off of a huge win at home against Tennessee, perhaps stepping up against Bama now, a little too much of a challenge in consecutive games?
Yes, because I always look at teams, Kevin, that have big upsets, and I've seen it coaching myself, where you get a huge upset at home, and then you go on the road, and then you lay an egg. And I think that's my concern with a Vandy team that is 15-3 and playing good basketball. I just look at the way that Alabama looked going on the road, winning 102-97. They just have so much firepower, right, between Sears and Nelson and Wrightsell and Amori, kind of anchoring the pivot area, kind of letting Nelson not be the center. I like this Alabama team a lot. I like them minus the points. I think you get a good spot for them to come back. Remember, they're also 6-1 against the spread the last 7 games. So they were playing pretty well. Give me Alabama minus 11.5 at home versus Vandy.
Bama is, I was tweeting about this earlier today. I can't, the 4th best offense in basketball plays at the highest tempo in the country. That is horrifying. That is absolutely horrifying. The rest of those offenses inside the top 10 in tempo are all bad. I don't know if it's they're out of control. They should try and slow down. I don't know. Instead, you have to guard 700 possessions when you play Bama against one of the very best teams in college. Go ahead, Coach.
And the only concern you're going to have about Alabama, Kevin, is like you have a concern with the Celtics. Why? Nate Oates has this philosophy. And people know it. They heard me on the network. I hate it. They don't shoot pull-ups. If you look at the game against Kentucky, they shot 67 shots. 34 were from 3. They're going to take 40 to 45 to 50% of their shots from 3. If you catch them on a cold night, they're going to lose. That's where it makes tough with the tournament. But you're right. That offense is high octane. It's high pace. They push it. They shoot the 3, and they drive it down the hole. They are extremely tough to guard. Probably the hardest team to guard in the country.
Yeah, it's again, they are an absolute force on that side of the ball. UConn's offense is great this year. The defense has been nowhere near the standard the past few seasons. They're a big favorite going up against Butler. What do you think? How do you think this one plays out?
Listen, when I looked at it, Kevin, I couldn't go to the spread, right? Because I just looked at the number and said that's just way too high, right? Considering the last game was 78-74 at Butler less than a month ago. Yeah. So I'm going to go with Butler team total under. I think it's 65.5 if I'm not mistaken. Now, UConn has allowed over this in 7 of the last 8 games. The one time after a loss. If I know Dan Hurley, he beat them up, and they are going to defend like nobody's business tonight. Give me Butler team total under 65.5. UConn slows it down, and they try and win it with their defense.
All right, so some love there that UConn does step up on that side of the ball. That loss just came to Creighton, JY. They're on the road at DePaul. Could it be a letdown spot?
No, because you look at DePaul, they haven't covered 6 of the last 7 games. Creighton is playing really well. 9 out of the last 10, they covered the spread, Kev. When Pop Isaacs got heard the transfer from Texas Tech, there was concern. Listen, they still got Ashworth. They still got Kalkbrenner. They still got dudes, right? And as good as Holtzman has done over there at DePaul, they have kind of struggled a little bit as they've stepped up in competition tonight. Give me Creighton minus 6.5 on the road.
All right, so we'll see then. Creighton, man, it was incredible to see UConn and Marquette both lose at home on the same day this past weekend there. Huge win for Creighton. They did not help me out, though. I had their team total over 68.5. They win at UConn. They score 68. I could not believe that. It is what it is. JY, talk to me. I'm on North Carolina tonight, team total. You also like UNC in their matchup with Wake Forest.
Kevin, it's a money line game. Simply put, folks, you have to start saying this. When you talk about Mike Woodson, right? They got rid of you and got rid of all these guys. When are we going to start talking about Hubert Davis and what he's doing at North Carolina? I heard Theo Pinton trying to defend him like they don't got a 5. Oh, that's right. You had Armando Baycock for 19 seasons, and he finally graduated, and you have a contingent plan. Kevin, if they don't win, they're going to the bubble. They still may be on the bubble. This is a big spot for a Carolina team that's not played well. They get going now. Give me Carolina on the road on the money line tonight.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think UNC needs to step up in a major way. I think there's a pretty good chance that they do step up. Let me ask you quickly, JY, because we'll get to all the future stuff in the next segment. JY is going to be with us here up until the top of the hour.
There's a game tonight that I think is really important in Big Ten play, and that's UCLA-Wisconsin. Cronin ripped into his guys, made a lot of headlines, and the following games weren't the best. And then they lit Iowa on fire. We know Iowa's not a great defense. We know they play very fast basketball. UCLA is the opposite, right? This great defense, and it's a much slower game. I wonder if at all Mick Cronin took from that Iowa game, maybe we need to push it a little bit more. Maybe I need to get more offensive opportunities for my guys, and that'll breed some better results because they have a chance tonight. They're favored at home against the ranked Wisconsin team to now really get some momentum here within Big Ten play.
Yeah, I actually like Wisconsin plus the points.
Okay.
If you look at it, the last four opponents haven't got to 70. And you look at UCLA, and Mick is kind of done this. We got to go east. We got to go east. Mick, you're getting, and your school's getting a damn check. So don't complain about people. You got to come east multiple times. You knew what you signed up for when you guys went to the Big Ten. Wisconsin has played really good basketball as of late. Kevin, all their games, I know Ohio State was only a 2-point game, but USC, 15-point. That's the big thing, folks. They already played at USC. They've been out there. It's not like it's their first game out there. Give me Wisconsin plus 2 points on the road.
All right, some love for Wisconsin there. It's just a big game. They need it in UCLA. We'll see how it plays out. JY's going to stick around with us. Value on the men's and women's side of the college basketball national championship market. We'll talk that with you next.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What?
How do you do this one?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
This guy Ovechkin, how he was injured and missed all that time, and the fact that he's still on pace to pass Gretzky.
I think everybody's rooting for Ovechkin at this point in time. And I think he'll do it as well. So it's a feat that no one ever thought Scotty would be broken. It's going to be broken, and it's probably going to be broken because, Scotty, he's not going to stop shooting.
Pharrell, coast to coast, only on SportsGrid.
All right, back at the right here on SportsGrid. We do have some updates around the Jets head coaching job, which seem to be a little odd. That Aaron Glenn, as well as the Commanders' assistant general manager Lance Newark, both of whom were interviewed in person today with the Jets coordinator Adam Schefter of ESPN, have left the team's training facility. Seems to be an ominous report that would suggest things aren't done, and typically they would have been done. I don't want to stress out JY.
Yeah, you did
We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. JY, let's talk let's talk futures. And I want to ask you about the women's game, because if we don't get to the men's, that's fine. But the women's national championship market, where South Carolina is the favorite, but at 2-1. It's then UConn at plus 440. Then 3 teams are at 5-1 in UCLA, USC, and Notre Dame. There's a team that I'm going to talk about for people during the Take 5, but who catches your eye when you look at the women's outright market?
There are 2 teams. One is UConn. Because simply put, I think Paige Beckers could have left last year. Paige is there for one job and one job only, and that's deliver one last national championship for Gina Auriemma. It's about the health. It's about AZ Fudd. It's about Keke Arnold. It's about, Paige. It's about them being whole. If they're whole, they have as good of a shot as anyone because they have arguably one of the best players in the country. But if there's another team to look at, folks, it's Notre Dame. If you have not sat for 2 hours and watched the best backcourt in college basketball, men's or women's, Olivia Miles, Hannah Hidalgo, you are missing a lot. Score, check. Distribute, check. Rebound, check. Defense, check. 3-point shot, check. Coach Ivy, yes, that's Jaden Ivey's mom, has a great team there. And Notre Dame, they couldn't close it in college football last night, but they have a chance. Remember, they've beaten USC and they've beaten UConn. Do not sleep on Notre Dame to win the national championship.
Yeah, sitting at 5-1, you can kind of tell the tier, right, that we have right now in the women's game. In the men's game, JY, there's also a very clear tier of Duke and Auburn at 1 and 2. But one of the teams that you and I have already talked about, you feel could be a real threat and maybe still some meat on the bone on that Alabama at 14-1?
It's guard play, and so it's a play of Sears, and they get hot. Their offense can carry you.
Has he been good enough to you this year, JY? Sears? His efficiency bugs me a little, but I don't know if that's even more concerning. Like, if this kid starts getting efficient, what are they going to score, 100 a night?
Well, they may. And I think, Kevin, I think the thing about it is with Sears is he can get going. The concern with them is the rim protection, particularly of Grant Nelson getting in foul trouble. That's where Cliff Amore kind of figures that out. If they tighten up the defense, Kevin, their offense is better than everyone. But if you think about defense, folks, Houston is starting to find themselves, particularly on the defensive end of the floor. After giving, I think, 74 points to San Diego State, they've won 10 games in a row. Only one team has gotten over 67 points. Kevin Sampson's team is defended. They've locked and loaded. Maybe the year that we don't talk about them enough is the year that they finally make the run. Look at Houston also. I think they're at, I believe, 14-1 as well.
Yeah, I'm going to talk more about Houston when we get into our Take 5. The Big 12 as a whole, I think, is a really interesting conference right now. We know, the SEC is amazing. The ACC is not very good, right? The Big 12, though, we know it's deep. Where's the value within that conference? A few different spots I think we can get into, certainly. Man, how about it, JY? Should be a good night of hoops.
It's going to be a great night of hoops. And listen, if you're some of these blue bloods, Indiana, maybe not making the tournament. North Carolina, maybe not making the tournament. But you know who's going to make the tournament this year? We are Penn State. We are Penn State. Shout out to my guy, Mike Rhodes. Penn State plus 136 will make the NCAA tournament. He's a better coach than James Franklin anyway.
How about Villanova, JY? Any Nova?
Oh, JY was at the Nova game. Shout out to my guy, Randy Floyd. We were, talking after They are back. Villanova's back.
You got to stop basing it on whether you went to the game or not, JY. You got to reel it in, man. I love it, though.
All the time, and I don't talk about them at all anymore.
All right, we'll do Take 5 next. Appreciate it, Coach.
You know, they have a lot of hopes, and they thought last year they were turning the corner. Even early this year, they start turning the corner a little, and then you lose 13 games in a row.
Edmonton chipped away, got a late goal, won the game 4-3. I felt like they dominated the third period. They moved the puck on that power play. It was an exceptional hockey game. It went over the total.
Only on SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What?
How do you do this one?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Dude, I'm so quick, you never know where I'm going to be up here, man. Game Time Decisions, we're making it happen. Kevin Walsh with you. It is Take 5 time. Now, today's Take 5, as always, of course, 5 options, 3 bets. College sports as a whole, we're trying to bring a couple of things into the pile. We did crown a national champion last night in the football side. There's some action that I think you can get involved with now. I'm not ready to run. There then are the top 3 I'm all getting involved with. So let's start off here at number 5. The Women's National Championship market for college basketball. LSU at 22-1 is a very tempting number. And I don't think you can argue with this price. It is possible that if LSU wins their next game, they could go to the favorites to win the entire thing. That probably sounds ridiculous. I'm not sure it is. They are a 20-0 basketball team. Obviously, this team losing Angel Reese limited the expectations coming into the year, but Johnson and Morrow have been fantastic. Despite being 20-0, they are not finding themselves near the top of the board because they have not played the top of the country. No USC, UConn, Notre Dame, UCLA, or South Carolina so far. Their next game is out South Carolina. If they win that game and go to 21-0, then what? I mean, they probably wouldn't go to favorites, but at 22-1, it goes to 8-1. If they win the next game they play, and the worst case scenario is they lose and you are still sat there with an LSU team that's going to get one of the top 2 seeds come March at a 22-1 number. From the Women's College Board, I don't think there's a better bet to be made than this right here. How about the Heisman Trophy market, which we saw unleashed last night after Ohio State won the national championship? We do something called K-Dub's House on College Football Today. And there were 4 invites. 3 of them are right at the top of the board. Arch Manning, now a co-favorite with Garrett Nussmeier. Nico Iamaleava from Tennessee, right near the top. And even Dante Moore of Oregon is 20-1. At triple the number, Michigan's freshman quarterback, Bryce Underwood. The final invite from K-Dub's House is way too far down the board. And you want to talk about beating the number? Because, look, we are a ways away. If they just name Bryce Underwood the starter, I think you beat this number. He is a freshman. They did get Mikey Keene, the transfer from Fresno State. But do you think Michigan fans will accept anything other than Bryce Underwood starting? Do you think Bryce Underwood showed up to Michigan to not start? Do you think Sharon Moore doesn't want this superstar as his quarterback out of the gate? I think that Bryce Underwood's 60-1 number could be cut in half if he gets to go to open the season in August. I don't know who I'm ready to pick to win a national championship next year. Time will tell. We're a ways away. But I know the talent that's Bryce Underwood, and I know that's a good number at 60-1. Now let's get into the action. These next three bets I've locked in already. Not about there is value, but these are numbers that I didn't want to miss out on at all. To make the Final Four, the Purdue Boilermakers at 14-1. First of all, look around. As always, on FanDuel, this number is plus 950. On DraftKings, this is 14-1. Huge ticket item. Purdue is booked, tied for the 19th best odds to make the Final Four over on DK. Well, Purdue right now ranks 10th in Ken Pom, 10th in Bart Tarvik, 10th in the net ranking. They look like a top 10 team in college basketball. Braden Smith has been a rock star. Kaufman Wren has been getting better and better throughout Big Ten play. And this is one of those numbers that is clearly right now late to catch up. But Purdue is, to me, not a team that I go, can they win in March? They were in the national championship last year. And I understood that that was a byproduct of Zach Edey being the best player in college basketball. But we're not getting Purdue at a number that is even remotely close to the performances that they're putting up right now. At 14-1, you have a team that, if you take a look over on Bracket Matrix, some spots are thinking would earn a 2 seed if the season ended today. They have the second best odds to win the Big Ten. If the Boilermakers can continue to play this well and are on the 2 line, this number's going to be cut in half, if not more. 14-1's a great number. I will tell you as well, this isn't a number that I went ultra aggressive on because you do want to see how the bracket falls. And you don't want to end up, getting a bad draw. That happened with some of the Final Four tickets I felt I placed last year. But I know that this is a good number. Purdue's next 3 games are at home. They haven't lost a home game since 2023. It's 2025. I think they win those next 3. This number starts to come crashing down. Again, at another book, it's already under 10-1. Regular season win totals are available on FanDuel. Kansas is booked at 13.5. Give me the under at plus 114 as my second favorite college bet you can place right now. Kansas has 4 wins on the board with 14 games remaining. So they need to go 10-4 or better for me to lose this, 9-5 or worse for me to win it. I think 10-4 is their absolute ceiling with the remaining schedule. They play Houston twice. Their best case scenario is a split there. Their remaining home games are super difficult with Texas Tech, Iowa State, Arizona, all coming to Fog Allen. The road games are not going to be easy. Playing games at Baylor, at BYU, TCU, Utah, and it's a Kansas team that has already lost a number of road games and lost a home game to West Virginia. I'm not buying the Jayhawks. I'm selling the Jayhawks at plus 114, under 13.5 wins. And selling Kansas made this even more of a must. I'm betting Houston to win the national championship at 14-1. We entered this season, and there were some teams at the top of the market that caught my attention. I bet Duke. They're down to plus 440. I bet them at 10-1. Auburn, right? They jump off the page. They were 20-1. They're down to plus 440. Iowa State, they jump off of the page, right? They were 16-1. They're now 10-1. Houston looked like they'd be pretty darn good. They were 10-1. Huh? How'd we move back for a team that ranks as the third best team in the country anywhere you look? Anywhere you look. Ken Pom, the net ranking, Bart Torvik, anywhere that you look, that's what Houston is. The only two teams that Houston will not be favored over are Duke and Auburn. They have the number one defense in college basketball, again, because, duh. And the Houston Cougars are minus 130 to win the Big 12 regular season. You know what that means? Houston's going to be on the one line. Again. So they're 14-1. There's a lot of value in this take 5. This number will be cut in half by the time the national championship comes around. By the time we get to the bracket, this will be cut in half. This will have won. I feel great about this Kansas number. If he wins the job, that's getting cut in half. And if they upset South Carolina, they might become the title favorites. We wanted value in the college game, and that is value. Let's talk conference championship value with Brady Cannon next, right here on Game Time Decisions.
So my team didn't win this weekend, but I still did with this app that's taking over the game. Sports Millions Pick'em lets you make quick and easy predictions. Pick your favorite players, go higher or lower, and you can still win big even if your team loses. Plus, the multiplier is insane. With just a few picks, you can win big money. So get on it. They've got a welcome bonus to help you start off your winning streak.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets and when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this once? Oh, Donnie, you've got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Live with you right here. It's Game Time Decisions. Take 5. We're in the door. We've locked it in. Added Houston. If I bet another team to win a national championship, that means something went wrong. Duke, Houston, just leave it alone. We're there. We're done. The bracket will get set. I'm going to get angry about it. That's what we do. Not much to be angry about, though, at the moment, as somebody who is holding Eagles tickets and is an Eagles fan, because they're in a conference championship game this Sunday. Talk about those numbers with us. It's Brady Cannon. Brady, always great to have you right here on Game Time Decisions.
Yeah, good to be with you, my friend. And congratulations, I guess, in order, holding a Philadelphia Eagles ticket. You've really been, banging their drum for a while now, and rightly so. What is what do you hear about Jalen Hurts? I'm a little worried. I kind of feel like he's definitely not going to be 100%. I think that's part of the handicap. I don't know. I think his mobility will be a bit compromised this Sunday.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting, and it's a really important question. For the Philadelphia Eagles, the games that they've played so far, there's a lot of conversation right now, Brady, of a cloud around the Eagles about all the pass attack. I don't care about that at all. I think it's completely misguided, honestly. My worry is they lost Nakobe Dean in round 1. They lose Quinyon Mitchell for so much of that game against LA, and if he plays, he could be a bit compromised. And then Jalen Hurts. Health is, to me, the only thing that can get in the way of the Philadelphia Eagles making it back to the Super Bowl. And I think that, plus the movement that we've seen in the market, is going to stop me from laying the number with Philadelphia. When I initially saw those 4.5s, I went, yeah, that's going to probably have to be a play for me. Those 4.5s are gone. We're seeing 6.5s now. How are you currently treating the number for that NFC Championship game?
I made it 4.5. And you're right. I think the actual opener was 5 or 5.5, and then it came down. I think the first move was down, and now obviously it's gone back up. So I really believe 4.5 to 6.5. I think that's a really good pocket where this game has a good chance of falling. When the number was 4.5 or 5.5, that certainly took Philadelphia out of a teaser play. You're not going to tease them to +2. That's awful. If you're going to tease through a 0, you've got to get it to at least 3.5. Okay.
Yeah.
You certainly don't want to tease it to less than a field goal. So I went the other way, just like I did last week, because now that it's at 6.5, I think the Eagles have become very popular in teasers, teasing them down to a pick 'em, -0.5, whatever it is. And it was the same thing last weekend with the Detroit Lions being extremely popular, teased down to 2.5, 3, whatever it was. I went the other way and teased Washington all the way up to, I think at the time it was +16. I did the same here, and it's not often that you tease, 6.5. You go through the 7, you go through the 8, you go through the 10, the 11, not the most key numbers in the world, but I'm sitting there with a ticket at +12.5, and I don't think this is a double-digit win. I think absolutely Philadelphia is the favorite to win this game. I don't think they'll win by more than 10 points.
Yeah, I think on the year, Washington only lost by double digits in that opener to Tampa Bay. So they're a tough team to extend on. And even if Philadelphia is up 14, Washington has the ball with 3 minutes to go, you expect Jaden Daniels to go grab you that back door on your teaser, right? At a minimum. And honestly, you could get the 2025 analytic down 14, touchdown, go for 2, and you could actually cover a 6.5 that way.
Yep. One thing, I've been betting on or against the Commanders all year long. I bet against them in games before a division game, and then I bet on them in division games. Their coaching staff, Dan Quinn and Cliff Kingsbury, have been fantastic in division games, and Kingsbury specifically against the NFC East when he was the head coach of the Arizona Cardinals, 7-0 against the number against the NFC East division. And obviously a division matchup here. So, and those things tend to be close to the vest, right, Kevin? So, yeah, I mean, 6.5, I agree with you. Probably prohibitive. You don't necessarily want to lay it with Philadelphia.
No.
Probably take it with the Commanders. It's all going to be about Saquon for me. If they can slow down the run game of Barkley, then they should be. I think they'll have a chance to win it. Obviously, we didn't think they had a chance to win it last week, and they did. That was a much different defense that they faced in Detroit. Not as good a defense, an injured defense. Here they face one of, if not the best defenses in the league. And I think that's really probably part, the big, I'm not worried about the Commanders being able to score, but how will they be able to keep up, and will they be able to stop Saquon? I think those are the questions for me. If they can stop Barkley, then I think they can stay within the number.
Yeah, I think again, it's a very interesting thing. I want to throw this out here. I was kind of wondering when would be the best time to get into this for the first time on air, because I went and kind of dug into the specifics. I've heard a lot about Brady teams after they played Detroit this season. What does it really look like? Teams after they played Detroit, 6-9 straight up. More importantly, 3-11 against the spread. And, of the 6 outright wins, all of those teams were favored, and half of those wins came against teams that were playing the Patriots. It's very interesting, but the sample size of teams playing the game after Detroit, it is pretty jarring. A lot of teams' worst games of the year, Brady, were that very next week.
Yeah, that is interesting. And we typically attribute that type of trend to very physical teams. That was absolutely true years ago in the heyday of the Pittsburgh Steelers. And then, just in the last handful of years, it was true with the San Francisco 49ers, teams that absolutely beat you up. Does Detroit beat you up? Yeah, they're physical for sure, but I don't know how physical their defense was last week. I don't know if that will hold true in this case. Also a tough test for Philadelphia in the snow last week, too.
Yeah, listen, the snow was a welcome atmosphere, though, ultimately, as Saquon hit a couple of holes. Let's talk about that AFC Championship game and some of the best options for you on the golf board tomorrow with Brady Cannon after this quick break.
One of the weirdest nicknames I've heard in fighting. There's people have some strange nicknames at times, but the Lemon Killer. What do you even make of that? What is that about?
I don't even know what that means, but I'm gonna squeeze him like a lemon on the day we fight, and he's gonna pop.
Only on SportsGrid.
What if he gets Kellen Moore? CS guy, right? He was supposed to be the coach in waiting when he was the offensive coordinator. Is that enough? Does Jerry pull the trigger for that? Or does he pull the trigger for Dion?
Mike McCarthy would have not let this play out this way unless he had a job. So I think McCarthy already has the New Orleans job.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
We all know MVPs don't win the Super Bowl. It's not about MVPs, man. The only MVP, fine. Win the MVP in the Super Bowl. Nobody cares about the MVP in the regular season besides people that bet on it, the actual player themselves, and their agent that's getting a cut of the bonus money. Other than that, who cares? What do you care who wins the MVP? Like I said, unless you bet on it. Right? If you bet on it, fine. Then I guess you care.
Sports Rage tonight. Only on SportsGrid.
All right, we're back right here with Brady Cannon. Brady, we got into the NFC Championship game with the AFC Championship game. I got to say, one thing that I am happy about with Buffalo beating Baltimore is avoiding some people, I'm going to be a little gatekeepy here, who don't know what they're talking about, throwing a fit that Baltimore would have been favored in Kansas City. We don't even have to have that conversation, which is great. And instead, it's a 1.5-point line in favor of Kansas City, which is, for me, entirely unsurprising. I'm curious where you landed on this number.
Well, a lot of twos in the market now as well. I wouldn't be surprised if it hit 2.5, but I think ultimately it will probably close 1.5 in favor of Kansas City. We were on with Dave Sharapan last weekend before these games, took shape, and we thought that either Baltimore or Buffalo would be a favorite at Kansas City. Figured probably 1.5 for the Bills and 2.5 for the Ravens. I made the number 1.5 in favor of Buffalo. It's hard to say the wrong team's favorite here. I believe the odds makers' power ratings have Buffalo as a better team than Kansas City. But can you imagine what kind of action the books would have taken if they would have made Kansas City a dog at home? It would be completely imbalanced. So I understand why they're hanging this number. I think the true number is probably closer to pick 'em. And I think eventually you're going to get an onslaught. It looks right now like the most of the action is with the Buffalo Bills. I think the general public is tired of the Kansas City Chiefs. But I think in the long run, you're probably going to get a lot of Chiefs money because the general thinking, I believe, is, hey, look, Kansas City's going to figure out a way to win this game. That's what they do. And if you're only asking me to lay 1.5 or less than a field goal, then that's where I'm going to put my money. I ultimately think Buffalo's going to win it outright. And I'll tell you, I talk about this is teaser season for me, Kevin, because I believe the lines are probably as sharp as you're going to get. And if you want to move them 6 or 7 points, that's a huge advantage. So the number I wanted to get to with Buffalo is 8.5 on the other side of 8. Plus 8.5 equates to a 6.5 point teaser if the true line is 2, which it is in many shops all over the world right now. So I took Buffalo to plus 8.5. And like we mentioned in the last segment, the Commanders to plus 12.5. And I don't know, might seem a little bit square ball, but I think I'm well within the number in both games.
Yeah, I think, and specifically Buffalo, Kansas City can't extend on anyone. Again, like them covering against Houston was very difficult to watch. They shouldn't have covered that game, and Houston is much worse than Buffalo. So I totally understand it. Curious, just quickly, and then we'll get to the golf. But Brady, do you make totals at all? Did you have any thoughts? Both of these are now, I'm seeing it on FanDuel sitting at 47.5.
I am not a totals guy, Kevin. That is certainly not my forte. But I would believe the Kansas City game, and I haven't looked at the weather yet either. I would believe the Kansas City game has a better chance of going over the total than does the Eagles Commanders game. I think the Bills Chiefs could be a back and forth type affair.
Yeah, the totals to me are difficult in both games, but I think offensive production, I feel better about where I'm going to get it in Kansas City and Buffalo at this moment, in that there will be, if I, as someone who enjoys the props, Allen and Mahomes numbers will really be coming into kind of shape for me as we get closer. Brady, I don't want to sprint through the golf because we have some big names up there. So I'm going to ask you to just keep you around for a couple of extra minutes if you have the chance on the other side of this. What I will let people know, and we start tomorrow, which is a rarity. Do you think that throws off the guys in any capacity?
That's a good question. I don't think so, because the guys that have been playing Torrey Pines for the last handful of years have been used to this start. I think it's a fantastic move by the PGA Tour. They did it, I don't know how long it's been, maybe 6-7 years ago now, when they adjusted the schedule, and they pretty much end at the end of August and they begin at the beginning of January. And for the most part, they are completely out of the way of the NFL, and they're doing it again here, where they're leaving Sunday alone. They're going to start this tournament on Wednesday, finish it up on Saturday. And it's great because there's nothing really else to watch for a few days. So they get some eyeballs on the golf at a tremendous tournament like Torrey Pines. The PGA Tour has been very smart, in my opinion, in staying out of the way of the NFL.
Yeah, I fully agree there. Let's get into it then. We've got a name right at the top. Is it his tournament to lose? We'll ask Brady on the other side of this quick break with you right here on SportsGrid.
One of the weirdest nicknames I've heard in fighting. There's people have some strange nicknames at times, but the Lemon Killer. What do you even make of that? What is that about?
I don't even know what that means, but I'm gonna squeeze him like a lemon on the day we fight, and he's gonna pop.
Only on SportsGrid.
What if he gets Kellen Moore? See that guy, right? He was like supposed to be the coach in waiting when he was the offensive coordinator. Is that enough? Like, does Jerry pull the trigger for that, or does he pull the trigger for Dion?
Mike McCarthy would have not let this play out this way unless he had a job. So I think McCarthy already has the New Orleans job.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
Blocked well and tries to cut through the middle. Oh!
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
We all know MVPs don't win the Super Bowl. It's not about MVPs, man. The only MVP, fine. Win the MVP of the Super Bowl. Nobody cares about the MVP of the regular season besides people that bet on it, the actual player themselves, and their agent that's getting a cut of the bonus money. Other than that, who cares? What do you care who wins the MVP? Like I said, unless you bet on it. Right? If you bet on it, fine. Then I guess you care.
Sports Rage tonight. Only on SportsGrid.
All right, we're back right here, Game Time Decisions. Brady, we will not keep you around too long, but tomorrow we begin the Farmers Insurance. Ludwig is right at the top. Only golfer under 9-1. Hideki not too far back. What are you expecting here from the Farmers Insurance Open?
I love this tournament. I've played this course many times when I was going to school in San Diego. Just an absolutely gorgeous property. And I always say, Kevin, this is where the real season begins. The preseason is over, a couple of soft tournaments in Hawaii, a soft birdie fest in La Quinta, and now we get some big boy golf, really the rest of the way out. This is a massive beast of a golf course, almost 7,800 yards. It's hosted a couple of U.S. Opens, won by a couple of pretty big name guys in Jon Rahm and Tiger Woods. Long golf course with narrow fairways and thick rough, and that really equates to total driving. I think this is one of the courses on tour, maybe more so than any other, where total driving, the combination of length and accuracy, is of the utmost importance. And Ludwig Åberg, one of the guys you mentioned there, is one of the best in the world at that combination of length and accuracy off the tee, and he did well here last year. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him in the mix, but the shortest shot I took was on Keegan Bradley, and you can find him anywhere from maybe 20-1 as high as maybe 28-1. And that's really been the signature of his career, is total driving it long and straight. He's done very well here in the past, had a number of top 10 and top 25 finishes. And Kevin, I don't know if you've noticed it in watching any of this golf early on and at the end of last year. I think Bradley's inspired by this Ryder Cup nod that he got as far as being named the captain. He looks like he is just running on adrenaline, and I think he's going to run with this thing. Who knows? He might play well enough this year to actually make his own team.
Yeah, I will just say I am very interested to see if Ludwig starts to kind of meet the number, right? Like, I know we don't have a Scotty or a Rory holding it. That is just, to me, the main thing, Brady, that jumped off the page when I saw the Farmers Insurance. And look, it's a golf tournament. He is plus 900. So I would not sit here and say, Ludwig doesn't win. This guy's not going to be able to ever meet the standard that people are expecting him to get to. But I just want to know what this season will look like for everybody basically not named Scotty. I mean, one of the crazy things too, Brady, I was thinking about this the other day just because I'm like, we're about to start to get into golf a little bit more. Like, man, is anybody going to be able to touch Scotty? And then you remember kind of a portion of the year, we're like, is Scotty even golfer of the year, right? Because Xander had so many huge moments and things like that. And it's like, maybe this can be wide open. I think you will find more and more storylines developing. And I'll also say this. I wonder if people are just going to be super ready for golf. Because I'll tell you right now, Brady, on ESPN, Tuesday night, usually you got a big college game. It's Tiger. It's the golf is on. They are getting a spotlight earlier in the year, way more often than we usually see from them.
Yeah, I think Rory's in action as we speak, or coming up here pretty quick with the TGL Tuesday night deal, and that's a great way to lead into Torrey Pines on Wednesday with the Wednesday start. I hope Oberg has a huge year. I hope he wins a major. I hope he wins a couple tournaments because I love that kid. I love his attitude. I love his swing. I love his game. I think he's, we need some of those big-time players, Colin Morikawa, Xander Schauffele, Rory McIlroy. We need some of those big guys to really challenge Scotty this year and just let Scotty keep being Scotty because he's good for the game as well.
Yeah, listen, Scotty Scheffler is always someone that we're excited when he's on the card. Brady, we appreciate it. As always, the next time we're talking about making a football number, it's going to be the Super Bowl number.
You got it, my friend. We'll talk to you next week.
All right, great stuff as always there from Brady Cannon. And again, make sure you get set for the Farmers Insurance Open. Quickly right now on the basketball boards, NBA's just about to get underway with Brooklyn and New York. The only NBA play I was able to make tonight that I really, really felt good about, it's Nikola Jokic, big-time bounce-back spot, over 49.5 points plus rebounds plus assists at minus 115. Jokic had a 4-game road trip where it was statistically, and he's on it right now, the worst basketball he's played this year from a gaudy numbers perspective. His efficiency isn't dropping. They're winning a ton of basketball games, so I'm not telling you Jokic is playing bad. I'm telling you Jokic is not stuffing the stat sheet in the way that he typically would. Now, there was a home game within that 4-game run, but he didn't play in the game against Houston. They lost that game. Jokic is playing great ball, but he's not stuffing the stat sheet the way that he did the prior 7 games where he had 50 or more points, rebounds, and assists in all 7. Philly is the type of team that he targets, he dominates. Jokic sends more messages than people like to believe. And Philly is still Embiid's team, and Jokic will be ready to play in this game at home because Embiid's not. Because Embiid never plays in Denver. Embiid was never going to make the starting gate for this game for, all of the injuries that he has this year. But I think you see a huge bounce back from Nikola Jokic here in this matchup against the 76ers. College-wise, we have started a lot more. We have Tennessee up to an early start against Miss State right now, 25-16. Let me just see kind of where some of the listed totals are in relation to your pregame numbers. Bama Vanderbilt's trending under because Vandy's not scoring at the level that was anticipated. Tennessee's up to a 12.5-point live favorite in a very low-scoring game right now. 124.5 is that live listed total. And UConn is running early against Butler with their offense leading the charge. That total right now up to 150.5. We just started with Purdue, Ohio State. Reminder for me, the college card is 3 team totals on this one. North Carolina over 73.5 in a nice bounce-back spot up against Wake, who's not seen the team play at the tempo that UNC does. I think you will see North Carolina light up that scoreboard. I think you'll be able to see Arizona State creep over a very low number. It's 61.5 compared to the Cincinnati number, which was their last game out. That was 63.5. I think Cincinnati should be breeding a lower team total for an opponent. 7th in defensive rating compared to West Virginia's 19th. I know West Virginia is slower, not by enough to me to have that type of gap that we see tonight. I think ASU scores over 61.5 with West Virginia potentially a little less engaged due to the fact that their most recent game was a win against Iowa State, probably their best win of the season, all things considered. Speaking of Iowa State, bounce back spot for them. We take that team total over at 85.5. It's a very big number. It is there for a reason. UCF plays, within the Big 12, really fast basketball, right? It's a slower conference. UCF is in that, top 50 range of tempo. And defensively, it's been very poor for the Knights. I considered laying the 15.5 with Iowa State. I couldn't get there. I prefer that team total at 85.5. Yes, I've seen this movie sometimes where it's an 80-60 final score, but I am going to go with the 85.5 over for Iowa State, and that's where we are on the college board. And just another reminder, in case you missed it, we did do our Take 5, and we talked through a number of college sports options, numbers that I think you can absolutely be getting the best of. Top 3 on that board are all bets I got to the window on. Purdue make the Final Four at 14-1. That is on DK. They're tied for the 19th best odds. That is way too far down the board. Kansas under 13.5 regular season Big 12 wins at plus 114. That schedule is tough. And Houston to win the national championship at 14-1. I'll talk a little bit more about that and how I also want to approach the Houston Cougars for the next couple of days here. And if you're looking to get involved with Houston, what I think is probably the best route, I'll explain a little bit more. Quick break, and we're back with you right here. It's Game Time Decisions on Sports.
One of the weirdest nicknames I've heard in fighting. There's people have some strange nicknames at times, but the Lemon Killer. What do you even make of that? What is that about?
I don't even know what that means, but I'm gonna squeeze him like a lemon on the day we fight, and he's gonna pop.
Only on SportsGrid.
What if he gets Kellen Moore? See that guy, right? He was like supposed to be the coach in waiting when he was the offensive coordinator. Is that enough? Like, does Jerry pull the trigger for that? Or does he pull the trigger for Dion?
Mike McCarthy would have not let this play out this way unless he had a job. So I think McCarthy already has the New Orleans job.
Game Time Decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
We all know MVPs don't win the Super Bowl. It's not about MVPs, man. The only MVP, fine. Win the MVP of the Super Bowl. Nobody cares about the MVP of the regular season besides people that bet on it, the actual player themselves, and their agent that's getting a cut of the bonus money. Other than that, who cares? What do you care who wins the MVP? Like I said, unless you bet on it. Right? If you bet on it, fine. Then I guess you care.
Sports Rage tonight. Only on SportsGrid.
Back right here on SportsGrid Game Time Decisions. I want to talk a little bit more about Houston to win the national championship. Perhaps right now you're like, listen, we're going to go with KW this year as it pertains to the college basketball futures. You're on Duke, and you're now like, all right, we're gonna add some Houston. What's the way to play this? Here's what I'm talking about. When it comes to the futures market, the bigger tickets, right? So like the Kansas win total under is a future ticket, right? But it is a straight bet. So I'm talking about Houston at 14-1 or Purdue at 14-1. The rest of that take 5. When, I bet Duke to win the national championship, right? There's going to be some meat on the bone for a little bit to throw some free bets there, which is one of my absolute favorite ways to use those free bets. I imagine, most, if not all of you at these sports books get your no sweat bets. Your minimum odds, you got to be plus 400, whatever it might be. And those are not easy to win, so you get back your bonus bets, right? And for me, when I have those, I'd love to bring them into the futures market if I can. But I've not really had a good free bet team for a while. The Eagles number moved as far as it did, and I didn't want anybody else in the NFL. The Duke number moved. There was nothing for me to do anymore with Duke. I'm not throwing free bets on them at plus 440. I've got my action. We're fine, right? You go to the NBA, nothing really there for me. I've tossed one like Dalton Connect at some point. I don't need reinvestment on the Mavericks. I'm fine with what I have. They're not healthy right now, so that ultimately wouldn't be worth it. We're not doing our baseball futures yet, right? I've not had a good free bet team for a while. That is what Houston is for me, specifically this week. I am hoping that we get a few basketball no sweats Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and I'm going to be looking to up the ante with those specifically because I am more than fine flipping that free bet right into a Houston number before they go to Kansas on Saturday. I think Houston wins that game. I think Houston is at the level. Houston's 3 losses this year. The second game of the season to Auburn, very, very close basketball game. And then 2 overtime losses in Vegas. I'm not telling you that they should be 17-0. What I'm telling you is Houston is really, really, really good. So for me, having Duke at a 10-1 primary, you throw in a couple of extra free bets, right? And now being able to go to Houston, and that's it. I don't really want to do anything else. I said last year when I had the national championship tickets and we had some 125-1 Wisconsin, 80-1 Auburn, right? You beat these numbers. And then, the bracket came out, and I was like, that's great. Auburn is in the bracket with UConn. That's not. Oh, and then BYU was also in the same bracket. I had the Final Four ticket. Oh, and then Wisconsin's over. And I was like, all right, hold on a second, right? We did well. We got some numbers, but I wanted to limit it. That's why, for me, a lot of my preseason looks were on the best teams, right? And trying to figure out who I thought was the best team. And ultimately, I was right about Duke. Duke is the best team in college basketball. People go, they are. Everybody knows it. Dave Sharapan, the Consig is here. Dave, great to have you with us here on this Tuesday night. Duke's the best team in college.
Are they?
Well,
you're definitive on that?
Yeah. It doesn't mean that they can't. Okay. It doesn't mean that they're a guarantee to win the tournament, but who would you say is better? Because the only other team I think you would throw out would be Auburn, and their best player's not playing basketball right now.
Fair. And I think the disparity, I love the way you're thinking, by the way, and using last year's experience to make this year's experience better, get better opportunities is exactly what we're all supposed to do. So the disparity between Duke and everyone else in their conference is gigantic. At least it looks that way now. The disparity between Auburn and everyone else in their conference, despite the fact that Auburn is a very good basketball team, is not so much. So I feel like unless something really goes bad between now and the ACC tournament in March, Duke's going to be a 1 seed. They're going to have a path. Yeah. So, if you can get, and some of the guys in the space like to use the word portfolio. If you can get a nice portfolio of college basketball futures right now on teams that are going to have favorable paths, that's all you can do. And I think you're thinking right. Duke is, they are a top 3 team. Yes. If they're the best team, they're the best team this week. They've been the best team, probably body of work all season. I would agree with you.
And again, it's college basketball, right?
Yeah.
I know there are people within the business who will say right now nobody's touching this team, right? No, I tell you like it is. Like when I tell you the Rams aren't beating the Eagles, it's because the Rams aren't beating the Eagles because that's not a team that can beat the Eagles, right?
Unbiased.
That's right.
Most unbiased, man.
This guy Dave, he gets it, and that's what we like to see.
Yes.
To me, sometimes can you learn, right? Man, I got this 100-1. It's down to 50-1. Maybe I'll hedge. This will be awesome. We lost in the second game, right? And I didn't hedge because I was never going to hedge. Right. I think Houston's going to also be a 1 seed. They're minus 130 to win the Big 12.
My goodness.
You don't think they're going to be the 1 seed? Like, that's in front of Iowa State, right? Like,
wow.
So what Dave, you've seen it. When Houston gets on the 1 line, you think they're going to be 14-1 or you think they're going to be 7-1 to win a national title?
I mean, it would depend on whose book we're running, but I wouldn't mind leaving it at 14-1 and taking some bets on it, but it's going to come down.
Sure.
Yeah.
But you're not going to want to do that when but that's not where they'll be if they get the 1 seed, which is what they're massively expected to do. And that to me was, I'll say this, and I know this isn't the ringing endorsement, but I'm always honest.
Mm-hmm.
I desperately didn't want to bet Houston. I don't like betting on teams like them. They've had NBA guards each of the last 2 years in Sasser and Sheed. They don't have an NBA guard this year. The number is way too good to pass up on Houston. We're going to close out Tuesday here with Dave on the other side of this quick break.
One of the weirdest nicknames I've heard in fighting. There's people have some strange nicknames at times, but the Lemon Killer. What do you even make of that? What is that about?
I don't even know what that means, but I'm gonna squeeze him like a lemon on the day we fight, and he's on pop.
Only on SportsGrid.
What if he gets Kellen Moore? CS guy, right? He was like supposed to be the coach in waiting when he was the offensive coordinator. Is that enough? Like, does Jerry pull the trigger for that? Or does he pull the trigger for Dion?
Mike McCarthy would have not let this play out this way unless he had a job. So I think McCarthy already has the New Orleans job.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
We all know MVPs don't win the Super Bowl. It's not about MVPs, man. The only MVP, fine. Win the MVP in the Super Bowl. Nobody cares about the MVP in the regular season besides people that bet on it, the actual player themselves, and their agent that's getting a cut of the bonus money. Other than that, who cares? What do you care who wins the MVP? Like I said, unless you bet on it. Right? If you bet on it, fine. Then I guess you care.
Sports Rage tonight. Only on SportsGrid.
All right, back with you right here on SportsGrid. It is Game Time Decisions. Kevin Walsh with you. Dave Showerpan is here. Let me just quickly let people know that college basketball card, the team total overs that we have: Iowa State 85.5, Arizona State over 61.5, then UNC over 73.5. Dave, you're donning the UCLA colors tonight. Is there a lot of chatter around their game with Wisconsin this evening?
Interesting, right? You got a ranked team on the road who's been in California. They already beat USC, and they're hanging out. They get to go play UCLA, and UCLA's laying points. You've seen that before. You know how that usually ends up. Probably Bruins. That's just looking at it from a just look at the board type play. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff going on. I thought that would be appropriate for tonight. I wanted to ask you before we got out of here. Did you see the number on the Lakers tonight?
Yes.
I mean, and again, I know you're the most unbiased man in sports media right now. That Lakers number. It's 12.5 here on the graphic. Great job, Sam. 13.5 in places. As high as 14 in others. 2 touchdowns, Kevin.
Yeah.
It's the worst team in basketball.
Right.
What do you think?
Yeah. I mean, well, you'd almost think that I paid Dave to ask me this question. The most unbiased man in history of sports media.
Right.
I would be insane if I told you to. Has anybody ever watched the Lakers when they're laying a big number? Here's how this game looks, all right?
Tell them, Kevin.
Mid-third quarter, they'll be up 16. Right. LeBron will go to the bench, and then AD will spend 5 minutes looking like he's not really sure how basketball works, and nobody will play a lick of defense. And on that broadcast, they'll go, well, looks like we got a close one going into the fourth, and it'll be a 7-point game. And at some point, they'll be up 13, and then it'll be 4, and then they'll win the game by 6.
9.
Sure, maybe Max Christie will take that 3 with a little bit of time left on the shot clock. I've seen they played the Nets the other night laying a billion points. They won by 1. And someone went, man, isn't that a little concerning? I went, what about what's concerned? They won the game. Are you new here? They won. I might vote JJ Coach of the Year for that. That's what are you talking about? Of course they didn't cover
that Nets game.
Why?
Lakers won.
That doesn't bother me at all.
That Nets future.
Well, yeah.
That Nets total. I thought you might steal one there. On an over.
Listen.
I mean, I got a root now every night because I know Kevin got the Nets under.
I gotta tell you, man. They're out there in that fourth quarter. They can't play a lick of defense. Coach goes, you know what, man? Let me get Ben Simmons out of this game. I go, now hold on. I know Ben doesn't have a lot of good left in him, but a lot of it's on the defensive side of the basketball. We're taking him out in a game where we can't guard. Okay, I see the message. And it is clear. Lose, ready, set, break. We are up against it. No other way to put it, man. No.
Maybe they'll steal one tonight against the Knicks. Maybe
no
not.
other way to put it, man. We are up against it. Oh, good me. Wow. This Nets team's going to provide us.
First quarter, almost, yeah.
They're going to provide us some laughs throughout the year, huh?
All season. I mean, it's one of those ones that you don't see the bet before the season. But this will bring you aggravation, joy. You look like you had it easy. This is going to be a major sweat all the way down to the end.
Yeah. Wait a minute. Now, nobody called. Igor got his second shutout of the year.
What?
Whoa. These rags could be hot. Any ice quickly, Dave, before you get out of here?
Dallas against Carolina tonight. The game under is coming up here at the bottom of the hour. Dallas a short number. I'm not sold on the way Carolina's playing right now. Really up and down. Washington plus money against Edmonton. McDavid, cross-checking penalty, suspension. Caps find a way to get it done on the road.
Oh, yeah, no, that game. See, what's funny is I saw that game. I didn't know McDavid was out. I went, you know what? Sell it's going to be 6.5, banging under. 5.5, I went, whoa, how sharp am I? Now you're telling me McDavid's out? This game's a rocket ship. No, McDavid, everybody else gets to eat. Good luck. They're already scoring. This is 3 in the first, 4 in the second. We'll figure it out from there. Consig, have a good one. Do not forget Nikola Jokic for 50 PRA against Philadelphia. We'll see you on Thursday. In-game live is next.